Hey, how are you? So, welcome to Sunday Coffee. I'm Nick. I am creator of Define My Day. If I had them on my team, absolutely love um, Belichick and Brady. Brady. I read his book. I think he's a little kooky, but Brady is dedicated. You want to talk about somebody with a single vision that he goes for. I mean, he is all about doing the most he can do to make his career as long and productive as possible. He is healthy. He's everything he does is to that end goal. And I would say I think his family is very important to him too. So there's two things for him, and he doesn't muck it up with extraneous BS. Right? He's not. You don't see him partying out, hanging off of a nightclub balcony or like Antonio Brown throwing furniture off of a 14-story apartment building and almost killing a 2-year-old kid, or driving 100 miles an hour down a 35 mile an hour road. So, when you're focused and you realize you connect your daily actions to your overall vision, you can get so much closer. And we see it, you can see it in football and other sports where people are playing at the peak of their career and the peak level of whatever they're doing. You can see that the small little variations in how they behave create such a gap between the average players and the elite players. Now, talent goes into it, but for a lot of people, they have immense talent. I can look at my Steeler team, and you got Martavis Bryant, who that guy can't stay away from the drugs. So he went from one of the best receivers, most potential on our team, to I don't even know if he's still playing anymore. I know he went out, I think, to Oakland for a while. I don't even know if he's still playing anymore. You have a guy on our team specifically, and now this is basically what I'm saying here, or what my point was here, is that the Steelers were incredibly talented this year, but they weren't focused on winning. They had a running back focused on making the most money that any football player has ever made, and he probably will never make that, and he sat out, and he didn't show up for the team, and he caused a lot of problems in the locker room. We had a wide receiver in Antonio Brown, who is focused on getting the ball so much that I think he's negatively impacting the quarterback. I think that he's negatively impacting the people around him. I think he's dividing the locker room and causing a ton of distractions. We have Juju Smith-Schuster, who just this week said the Steelers need to stop acting like the Kardashians. And that says a lot. I think that if you have that much distraction, that you can compare it to a reality TV show like the Kardashians, there's a lot going on, not in connection with winning a Super Bowl. And when you flip it to a team like the Patriots, who, I mean, they have their little scandals and stuff, but all of those scandals even connect to the ultimate goal of winning, right? Now, you can say it's cheating, which it may have definitely been, but the bottom line is everything they've done has been to win another championship. And they even bring in problem players. They've had problem players from our team, and they bring them in, and because they have such a strict method of dealing with people in the way the team behaves, they turn into good players again. They're not worried about all the BS that's going on around them. They're worried about winning football games. So, while I think, when you have the probably the best quarterback that's ever played the game, it's easier to win. But I think that when you could potentially have that quarterback and never win if you had a team like the Steelers were this year, because they were an absolute mess in the locker room, and you could see it on the field. And in the case of the Patriots, they do not put up with BS. They do not put up with things that are pulling away from the team's culture. They do not put up with anything other than focus on winning. And you bring that down to, it's easy to see that. It's easy to see that in a group of people operating at a very high level. But when you bring it back down to us, that's when it gets a little bit harder to see, right? Because in our minds, a lot of times we're not peak individuals. And even if we think we are, we might not be operating at peak. But it's still impacting us. You just can't see it. So, when in my life, especially, with my goals in my mind, although I didn't take the time to write them down, I didn't take time to really figure out what I was doing, but as recently as 4 or 5 years ago, my goals were financial security. My goals, I had a vision of a happy family, a happy wife, a happy kids, being a good father. I had a vision of having a successful business. I had a vision of being a good person. But when I take time to look at my daily activities, they weren't lined up with what that goal was. And that's the broad 30,000 foot view of what we're doing with Define My Day. Is we have these goals for ourselves. Are our daily activities taking us to that destination? In my case, the answer was no. One of the things that seemed like a good idea for me was going to networking events. But when I look over time, how often did a networking event result in a client? Almost never. It was taking 2-3 nights a week, 2 or 3 hours a night. I wasn't seeing my family. I was exhausted. I had to get up the next morning and go to work. I was exhausted for work, not doing my work the way I should. We can bring it down to a smaller activity. So checking email every day, or checking email every minute. The minute something would ding, I'd pop my head up and look at my phone or my Outlook. Is that, while the reason I do that is so I can respond to clients immediately, right? So I can respond to anything that's happening. But when I'm doing that, my ultimate goal is to provide the best work for my clients. If I'm constantly checking my emails, I'm not doing my work. And so I'm in the habit, one, I'm in the habit of not getting my work done. Number two, I'm training myself to react to what's going on around me. So I'm training my brain to constantly be on alert, looking out instead of focusing on what I need to focus on. And I'm not getting the results that I need. Making that change was hard, but making that change to roll back to, my clients not understanding that I have to back off on responding. I'm not going to be that the dog that responds at every beck and call. But it took a while, and they had a hard time adjusting to it. But after a while, when the work improves and I get things done on deadline, then people are generally happier. And we have to set those boundaries with people around us, and it may be hard, and that leads into the saying no aspect of this. But setting those boundaries is incredibly important. And it rolls back into interpersonal relationships too. The kind of person that I wanted to be, didn't line up with the people that I was hanging out with. When you're hanging out with people that drink all the time, that some guys that I pretty sure were cheating on their wives. When there's guys that are not the best business people, not the most reputable business people. When I'm looking, when I step back and I hear the hate and the things that are coming out of their mouths, and I think to myself, what am I doing hanging out with these people? When you talk about distractions and talk about, the kind of person I want to be, and there's that saying that you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. I stand back and look and think to myself, well, this isn't where I want to go. This isn't how I want to talk. This isn't the reputation I want to have. Sure, it's a good time, but that's not the kind of person I want to be in the end. So, we have to take it back to where, the daily activities that we have, the people that we're hanging out with, the relationships that we have, where are they leading us? And we really have to take time to focus on it, because where we want to go is not going to magically happen. Where we want to go is a product of the activities that we perform every day. We can't say that we want to be a giving person without learning to give now. We can't say that we want a reputation for being, a great mother or father without putting the work in now daily to be a great mother or father. We can't say that we're a great friend without doing the work of being a great friend right now. So, all of the things that we want, we tend to disconnect, and we tend to see it as just something that's going to happen. But the people that are extremely successful in getting to that place where they want to go are the ones that realize now is when it has to happen. I have to behave today how I want to be in the future. So how is 10-year future me behaving today to get what I want? And it doesn't matter what you want. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you want a gigantic business. It doesn't matter if you want a successful marriage. It doesn't matter if you just want peace and quiet. How are you behaving today? If you want calm, are you creating calm, or are you creating chaos with your actions today? So, in the case of the teams today going out there, you look at one team, the Patriots, who has good talent, and in parts of their team not great talent. And in fact, in the beginning of the year, they didn't look very good. And they're in the Super Bowl, and they're a favorite to win it. And you look at another team, Jared Goff, who was not doing very well a couple of years ago, certainly a talented player, and finds a coach, and I don't know what that coach is doing with him, but that coach is making him an elite quarterback. So it's the people you're with, it's the processes you're using, and it's aligning your daily activity with the place that you want to be. And it's as simple as that. It's just the daily grind that gets boring, and that gets we just don't see it. We want what we want in the moment. We just don't see how we connect that, and we have to keep bringing our minds back to that point. So Vince says, it's so warm in Northwest Ohio that I'm disappointed I can no longer send people polar vortex. Funny. Yeah, I actually didn't leave the house for 3 days. I have that luxury of working from home, and aside from going outside to get the mail and shoveling some things, I needed to get out Friday night. Jennifer says, got my books and I'm afraid to begin. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's all you. It's all you. There's nobody judging. Nobody is grading you on your work. The point of Define My Day is to, the growth happens in the process. As you're daily going back to it, you're bringing yourself back to, okay, this is what I said I wanted to do. This is how it worked out. Why didn't it work out? Is this really what I want to do? There's so many questions that happen and so many answers that occur to you as you're going through the process. So don't worry about how good or bad you're going to do. It's there's times when I don't follow through, and that's what I consider bad, but you're gonna get there. I filled in a bit, but not enough to take the plunge and just start. Yeah, and you just have to. You just fill it in and don't worry about it being wrong, and you can always adjust as you move forward. You can always correct things. Your ideal day is not going to work out perfectly. My ideal day has changed a lot over the past couple of years. It's even changed in the past month. But it's just that practice of bringing it back. You just got to practice, reviewing it. How did you do? Did I try to do too much? Did I not do enough? You'll figure it out. Hey, Linda, good morning. Dominique, good morning. Lorraine says, love listening to Nick. Always such a great advice and strategies to incorporate into our lives for the best results. Thank you. I appreciate that. Kathy says, what books? How do I get them? Kathy, so we're talking about the Define My Day books, the Define My Day journal. This is actually my new one. I'm going to be starting a new one tomorrow morning. I'm going to be filling this in at some point today. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I'll have to set aside a couple of minutes to fill mine in so I have it ready to go for day one tomorrow morning. Now, I talked briefly, we talked about saying no last week, and somebody even asked, they have a hard time saying no to people. You feel like you want to please people. You feel like that saying no makes you feel like a jerk. You feel like saying no is being negative. In a way, no is negative, right? You're giving somebody a negative, but I think it's important to remember that point that when you say yes to something, you're saying no to an infinite number of things in the future. So, and the point of that being is that, whatever you say yes to, whatever time it takes, is going to take time from other things that may be more important to you, may be more aligned with your vision, may be more aligned with the person you want to be. So, you can say yes, and I did this in my business and my personal life, and I grew incredibly resentful when people didn't appreciate all the work I was putting in, because I was sacrificing so much of myself that I became almost hateful and resentful for it. And then you get into that relationship where they're going, well, but you said you were going to do this. Why can't you do it? And I'm going, because I'm doing a million things, and you don't appreciate it anyway, and blah blah. And you get into that, it's not good for anybody. So, it's easy in the moment to say yes. As anything is. It's easy in the moment to do what's easiest to do, right? But in the future, we have to pay for it somehow. So it's easy to eat a burger now. It's easy for me to eat all my ribs I'm going to eat today. But in the future, I'm going to pay for it. It's easy to say yes now because we want people to be happy with us, and we want that relationship, and we want that acceptance. But in the future, we have to pay for it. So future us is paying for it somehow. And especially if it's not aligned with our vision, if it's not helping us in any way, if it's actually a detriment to us, then it's a problem. So, and saying no, I mean, a lot of times can benefit the other people, because some people become so dependent on us that saying yes means that they're not working for themselves. So saying no to them and making them do their own thing can be very beneficial for that person also. They might not feel it in the beginning, but it can be very beneficial. So there's a book that I've read, Captivate, by Vanessa Van Edwards. It's about, she has a website, scienceofpeople.com, and her book was very good. I actually listened to it on Audible, and it's about first impressions and how we can change the way we behave, little behaviors we might not even know we're doing, to increase the value of relationships and captivate an audience is kind of the point. So captivate that person that you're speaking with. If you ever have that feeling, and I actually just had this feeling Friday night where I was talking to somebody, and I could see in his face, he was loaded with micro expressions that he was bored talking to me. So at that point, all right, I'm gonna disengage and go, because I'm not gonna struggle to try to make somebody interested. I'm gonna disengage and go do something else and talk to somebody that actually is interested. So, but I'm sure you've had that feeling. You're talking to somebody, and you know that they're not interested in anything you have to say. You know that they're not even interested in talking to you. They just want to get out of the situation. So, and this book has a component of that, talking about the little micro expressions that we put off. We might not know we're putting off, but also seeing what other people are putting off also. But her book is really, really good, and her website's good for personal interaction type things. And this article from her is how to say no. And I like it. It's from May 5th of 2017. I'll post the link. I'm going to make a note here to post the link. And I also read some other articles also that I think were some psychology-based articles that I'm gonna post on the notes here also. Yeah, this one was good, and it's kind of concise and to the point. So, but they did a little informal poll on Twitter asking how many people have a hard time saying no, and 52% replied it wasn't hard, 48% said that it was. So half the people in the world, or at least half the people that follow her, have a hard time saying no, which means probably half of you have a hard time saying no. I know I did. I have less of a hard time now. Because, one, I know what my time is worth now. I know the direction I'm going, and when you know where you're going, or you know where you want to go, it becomes so much more easy to make decisions. When you feel like you're just kind of floating around and you don't have a specific destination, it's kind of easy to go at the whims of what's going on around you. But when you can see clearly, okay, this is going to take me in the direction I want to go, and this is not, it's easier to say no to that. So that's my feeling about it. But number one, she says, plan out your no's ahead of time. It can be difficult to tell somebody no in the moment. If you struggle to say no because you're fear-facing people's disappointment, ask people to text or email you their request so you can get back to them. You're a busy person, so it's perfectly reasonable for you to say that you need to check your schedule before answering. Once they send you a follow-up, it's much easier to send them a polite reply saying that you're unable to agree to their request. So, you can kind of give yourself a little bit of space to, say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And there's other strategies. Like there's some people that say, don't use the word can't, use the word I don't do that, or I won't do that because, and that gets into the next one here. She says, don't offer an explanation. I don't know that I completely agree with that. And she says if you offer an explanation, and this is, I guess, goes to the type of person that you're dealing with. If you offer an explanation and that person has to try to then figure it out with you how to make it happen, or if you're dealing with somebody that's manipulative or toxic, they're going to try to find a way to manipulate you into saying yes. So I guess you kind of have to gauge who you're speaking with, because if you give an explanation to somebody that's fairly rational, they're going to understand better, and they're going to have less of a feeling that you're just saying no because you're a jerk. So she says don't offer an explanation because it seems like a polite way to decline a request, but sets you up for an awkward situation. I'm not going to read the whole part of that 'cause it's a little bit longer, but I understand what she's saying there. But I feel like most of us are going to have to feel like we need to offer some sort of reason. And I read a book. I might have been Never Split the Difference, but if you offer a explanation for that, and actually even when you offer an explanation for a request, like I need, hey, can you help me here? I need this because. When people know the because, they empathize with you a little bit more and will be more willing to help you. I think it kind of works in the same situation here. When you say no, I can't or I won't because I have other obligations that I'm working on. No, because it doesn't. I'm sorry. It's just not something that I do anymore. For me, in our business, we do a certain type of computer work, and we used to have a store. We used to help residential customers, and what we found is that when we would go back and try to help an old residential customer we didn't do it very well anymore. We weren't set up to do it. My technicians weren't set up to do it. We spent more time than we needed doing it. We couldn't bill for the time that we were spending on it, and it was actually costing us money on the business side of things because our technicians were going the wrong direction. They were focusing on the wrong things. So we had to start saying, no, I'm sorry, we don't handle that kind of computer work anymore. And and they get mad, and they'd say, well, who do I go to now? And they get like angry at us because we don't do that work anymore. But at some point you have to realize that if they're getting angry at me because I can't help them, then I understand. I understand you're a little bit let down by that, but it's just not something I do. I wouldn't give you the best possible outcome that you would want, and so it's a hard conversation to have. But so it's hard. I think you have to judge when you offer an explanation and when you don't. So how you handle that, I don't know. And she says number 3, do offer an alternative. So if you want to, if this is a relationship you want to maintain, if this is a relationship that that you want to be healthy going forward, you give somebody the opportunity or an alternative to what a time if they want to go out, an alternative time, an alternative maybe even an alternative person that can help them. If you can give them some sort of help without investing too much of the time that you are trying to spare. I don't know. Sometimes people don't want to hear that, especially if it's somebody, like say you have a family member that's relying on you too much, and they're constantly asking you for help. They're constantly asking you to pick them up, take them places, or and that they could do it themselves, or that they could have somebody else in their life help them out once in a while. And you don't want to say no because you're just sort of trapped into helping them. You sit down and have a conversation. Like, look, I understand that you need help, and I want to help you as much as possible, but I also have some things that I don't have enough time to do everything that I need to do. So we're gonna have to find an alternative situation or somebody else that can help you also, so that we can ease this a little bit. It's a hard conversation to have. It's a hard conversation, but saying no to somebody doesn't make you a jerk. It doesn't. It helps you define your boundaries. It's a in the end, when people respect those boundaries and respect you for setting the boundaries, the relationships that matter are the ones that are going to grow after that no. It's the toxic people in the end, usually, that are going to make it more difficult, and they're going to scream and cry and pout and whatever. It's just the way it is. So, hopefully that in saying no, you can get to that point where, you're more comfortable with it. It's like practice, it's, in anything that we do, whether it's your daily disciplines, exercising, anything that you're trying to do better, when you notice that you're weak on something like saying no, you just have to practice it more, and you have to say no more. And that's, that's the more you practice, the easier it becomes. And it becomes easier because you have more practice with it, but it also becomes easier because people get used to you saying no. I think the one thing we don't want to do is say maybe, or say, I'll get back to you, and then never get back to somebody. I think that when you do that, while it's easy in the moment because it kind of defers it to the future, kind of what we were talking about in the earlier discussion, when we say maybe, we're just setting it up. We're like banking negativity. We're banking procrastination. We're just sort of piling on this negative feeling that's going to blow up at some point in the future because the other person's going to get disappointed. Because when you say maybe, you're saying no. But when the other person is hearing maybe, they're hearing like, okay, we got a shot at this. There's a 50-50 chance, or it's probably. When you say maybe they're hearing probably. So you don't want to do that because it just turns into a shit show later on. That's setting up for disappointment. It's not setting expectations properly. It's not good. It's not good. So less maybes, more yes or no. You can't try to delay that conversation. It's just way too hard. Now, do what she says, like give yourself a little bit of room, check my schedule, but then follow up on it. Actively, proactively follow up on that conversation before they have to come back to you and they feel like they're nagging. Because when they come back to you and say, hey, I asked you, what are we doing? Then they're getting a little bit annoyed. And then when you say no, they're already going to have that annoyed feeling, and then they're going to get angry. So we don't want to do that. All right, so let me see what you guys have been saying here as I've been talking. Jennifer, thanks, you're welcome. Mary says, I started saying no to my adult kids wanting me to do things for them. Now they're starting to say, if you can work it out. So we're seeing a crack there, right? If you can work it out. So that's good. And kids are the ones we have the hardest time saying no to, right? Whether they're young kids or older kids, what we found with ours is that the more you say no when they're asking you to do something they're perfectly capable of doing themselves, you can see that independence in a young child start to grow really fast. Because when they realize, whether it's getting them a cup of milk or juice or something, we tell our 5-year-old, go get it yourself. No, go get it yourself. He gets a chair, he pulls it up to the countertop, he goes up, he grabs his cup, he comes back down, he goes, puts it up under the water dispenser, or, grabs the milk jug and pours himself a cup of milk. Now, look, if the milk spills, okay, we clean it up with him, but that doesn't really happen anymore. And the little dude's 5 years old, and now he might say, I want milk, but we say, well, can you go get it yourself? Okay. And he goes in and does it. There's not even a fight anymore. And you see these parents, and we've all seen these parents in the stores, right? They're saying no, the kids are saying yeah, they're saying no, the kids are saying yeah, and they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then the parent finally says, okay. We're training people when we do that. And I'm sure it happens more complexly in our adult relationships. We're training people like that we're going to say no a bunch of times, but if you beat us up enough, we're eventually going to say yes. I think that's the worst, most toxic way to do this. We don't want to teach people that badgering us is going to make us comply with what they want, right? So in our kid relationships, our relationships with our kids, like we just had a discussion with our 8-year-old last night because we got to the point where we were arguing with him way too much. Now our answer never changed, but we were arguing way too much. And we got to the point where we had to actually punish him so that he realized there was a consequence to arguing with us. And we had the conversation last night for dinner because we called him down for dinner and he wanted 5 more minutes or whatever. And I kept telling him no. He's like, oh, come on, no. And he got downstairs and we sat him down and said, look, we had to deal with you once 6 months ago with this issue or however long ago it was. Do we have to do it again? Do we have to take something away from you? Do we have to punish you for you to realize that these arguments cannot happen? When we tell you to come down for dinner, you come down for dinner. When we tell you to do this, you do this. No. Okay, fine. Now you understand. So if we are moving forward with it, if this argument happens again, that mommy and dad are getting frustrated because you're not listening to us, then you're going to get punished. We're taking something away from you. We're going to take away the PlayStation. We're going to take away the iPad. You're going to have to, do something, whatever that might be. Then it's going to happen. So he's been put on warning. Can't do that with adults, but we can still set our boundaries. We can't get into that, no, okay, fine. We can't get into that type of relationship. That is really bad for you. It's great for the other person because they're always going to get what they want. But you're going to do it. You're going to be resentful. And if any point in time you do say no, and you stick to it, they're going to go, well, what's wrong with this? Why is this person suddenly saying no? And they're going to get a little goofy about it. So don't let it get to that point. Yeah, Mary, I know. You feel bad at first. We always do. And especially when they're adults. I can't even imagine because my kids aren't that old yet. But when we get to that point, when the kids are adults, and they can come up with complex conversations and more complex situations, and you can empathize with it. A kid that just wants a toy, you can almost tell them to suck it up. But when there's a major situation going on with one of our older kids, I can see how that would be a lot harder. And they're capable of having a rational decision or discussion with you about why you should help. So I'm sure that hopefully my ability to deal with that conversation levels up as my kids does. But you feel bad about it because you want to help. You want to be there for them. But I think that nobody grows properly without being able to do that. So good on you for doing it. Jennifer says the email reply comment you made is me and to a T, and felt so much my days wasted looking at my stinking email. Oh yeah. Oh okay. I see what you mean. The email reply comment. Yeah. Maybe set up a data check one time in an hour. I agree, Jennifer. So Jennifer's talking about that replying the emails, and that goes directly to distraction. You're training people that you're always going to be there. You're also completely training yourself to never focus on anything, and you're responding constantly. So what I have done, I just cut it back over time. So the way you did it is the same thing as how I did it. Check it one time an hour, and then after a while I would check it one time every 2 hours. Now I completely close Outlook. I don't want to hear the ding because the ding makes me look. And I open it. I don't even do it first thing in the morning like I used to. So now I don't open my email until 8 o'clock in the morning, and I look at 8 o'clock. And then I will go until I'm done with my focus priority activities. So generally I schedule it for noon so I can check my email right before I go to lunch. But if I'm done with all my priorities, by 10 or 11, I can check my email then. But I know on days where I leave Outlook open and I hear that ding, even if I'm telling myself I'm not going to look at it, I end up looking at it, and then 20 minutes later I find myself down an email hole when I still haven't finished what I said I wanted to finish. So yeah, if you can wean yourself off of that checking email constantly. And you go to your phones, there's so many dings and notifications on your phones, you can turn off a lot of those for the individual apps, and that makes it so much easier. A salesperson learns to keep working for a yes. And so Cynthia, with Sandler sales training, they always tell you to go for the no, right? You always want somebody to give you that hard no, and then you can still work after the no. And that's the problem. As the salesperson is that person that's asking for us to do something, and we're the person being sold, and that person's constantly going for the yes. They're trying to sell us on this thing that we don't necessarily want. So I like the parallel there, and that's absolutely how it's going. So a salesperson. You're training a salesperson. If you keep saying no and then yes, you're training them that you're going to say yes, and they're going to end up getting that payoff eventually. We don't want to do that. And Sarah, toxic sister. Yeah, so Sarah, I believe you commented in the group about that. And we have family members like that, right? They're family members that I have that, we put up with certain behaviors for a long time, and it caused a lot of stress between my wife and I. And it damaged our relationship, and it damaged a lot of relationships. And at one point, and it's funny because she would say to me, "Why don't you say anything?" And I told her, I said, as soon as I say something, the relationship is over. Once I say something, once I try to put my foot down somewhere, then the relationship is going to be over, and I'm probably never going to talk to this person again. And that's exactly what happened. It took a couple years to get to that point, and it took enough that there was something so extreme or a buildup of small little events that it just couldn't happen anymore. And so now, I have two people in my life that I don't have relationships with anymore. We haven't talked to them in years because it's just not healthy. And I can tell you that when you do that, it hurts, and a lot of times they don't even understand because they're not even aware of their behavior. But even when you tell them, but it's so much healthier for us to not be with them, and to not have the types of things going on. And it hurts. There's people you love that don't behave in ways that are good for anybody, and until they fix that on their end, there's nothing you can do. And you can't be guilted into it, and you can't be manipulated into it. It's just, it is what it is. All right, let me go back up here. I moved a little bit. Mike says, very excited, starting my second book today. Awesome, man. This is way harder than I thought it would be. My theme is keep moving. Dude, my theme is keep moving almost every day. It's either go or keep moving or keep it up or do the little things like every day. Keep moving forward is a big one of mine. That's why I sign my emails that way, because I've seen it on my Define My Day page like daily. But it is way harder, right? We're learning a whole new thing, and it's not the book that's hard. We can fill out things in the book constantly. It's the work that happens day in and day out that makes it hard. So but it's things that have to happen. We have to connect that what's happening today with where we want to go. But good on you for sticking with it. I appreciate that. And I know there's a lot of people that struggle with this and many other things. So when you do, the payoff is there. The payoff, when we behave in a way that takes us to where we want to go, you realize in doing it that you were never on track in the first place. When you realize how the hard work that has to happen to get that payoff in the future, the path we were on was nowhere near it. So how is it, without doing any of the work, how is it even possible? It's not. It's not suddenly going to happen. We're just going to wake up one day and go, oh, this sucks. And I don't want that to happen for you. I don't want it to happen for me either. Vince says, sometimes it's saying no to a specific request, but offering a yes on our terms as an alternative. Absolutely. Giving the requester a choice of something or nothing based on what we were willing to do for them that doesn't compromise our life. I don't know if I read that last part correctly. Giving the requester a choice of something or nothing based on what we were willing to do for them that doesn't compromise it. Okay, so you're saying offering a yes on our terms as an alternative is the something. Then if they don't want that, then they're saying no by doing nothing. So you're then not compromising what you can do. I really like that. So you're kind of putting the ball back in their court. You're saying, I can't do that, but I can do this for you. They're saying they can then reject what that is. I agree with that. I agree. Oh, you bring up the word compromise. I have a whole discussion I want to have on compromise. That book that I just talked about, Never Split the Difference, I read that last fall, and he talks about not compromising. Like, compromise is not good for anybody because nobody wins. The compromise means that nobody is getting what they want and nobody is happy, and we should never compromise, never split the difference in anything we do. He's an FBI negotiator, and he brings it down to personal type stuff. Very good book. Cynthia says, also by saying maybe, one is still using decision-making brain time. Yep. The book by Marriott about how their corporate culture, the founder says he decides to decide. Yes. Makes life easier because you no longer have to think about it. Yes. I can't agree with that more. I didn't realize, what book is that, Cynthia? Can you post the title of that book? That's something that's occurred to me in doing the Define My Day stuff, like working on my priorities, because we all have that thing we're putting off, right? We all have that thing we're stressing out about, and it's making us crazy, and we think about it as we're walking around, we think about it as we're in conversations with people, we think about it as we're working on other things, and then when we finally sit down to do it, then it takes like 10 or 15 minutes sometimes. Maybe it takes an hour or two, but we do it. And then all of a sudden we realize it wasn't as hard as we thought it was. And we can clearly go about our business otherwise. So when you make that decision to do it rather than hemming and hawing over it, it clears up your brain. We bring it back to this comment that Cynthia makes. When you instead of mulling over a decision for forever, just decide to do it and go. I've seen this even in deciding to make a purchase. Like sometimes I will spend hours researching a camera or researching, some $100 tech gadget. And when you add up all the hours that I spent working on researching this product, it doesn't matter. And I spent all those hours, it cost me more in time, in billable hours, than it did to actually buy the thing. And the difference between the two things I was comparing was not a big deal. So just pick one and go and deal with the consequences is especially if it's a low priced item, just decide to do it and get it and go and see what happens. If you make a mistake, you return it. Or if you make a mistake, you chalk it up. But instead of burning our valuable time, hemming and hawing, burning our mental resources, we just decide and do it. So same thing with the relationship type stuff. When somebody's asking you to do something, instead of going back and forth about it and it dominates our day, it probably negatively affects the other interactions that we're having with other people, we just decide, yes or no. Let's get it. Let's decide right now. If we decide yes, then we don't think about it constantly and say, well, man, I should have said no. We said yes. So let's just go do it. And if we said no, then we deal with their reaction, but our no is our no, and we don't think about that either. Cynthia, great comment. Thank you. Jennifer, yeah, awesome. Sarah says there are 7 other siblings who will not say anything about her behavior. Yeah, I know. I was in a very similar situation, and I know, man. I feel for you. There's just, you get to that point where it's just, oh, that's just the way she is. It's Mary being Mary. It's Sue being Sue. But in reality, the negative stuff just impacts, and I don't know specifically what that negative behavior is, but you can try talking, you can try, but like with that toxic person, when you say, look, this isn't okay with me, they're going to blow up and they're going to turn it back around on you and they're going to blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's exactly what happened with us. And, at some point you just have to step back. And even in stepping back, so we step back, the conversation I had with my wife is, hey, let's just take a little bit of time. Let's regroup. I'm not going to say much. I said what I had to say. Let's back off and let's see, what happens in a couple of weeks or a month or whatever. And what happened, as we weren't talking at all, we were seeing little passive aggressive posts on Facebook and, all this stuff. And so at that point you see that, okay, this isn't okay. This isn't how people should treat me. This is how I wouldn't treat other people. So we need to take a longer break. And the longer that break happened, the more attacks started happening until we just had to say, forget it. Now, why would somebody that wants to be in my relationship with me, why would somebody that says they love me attack me for simply needing a little bit of space? When you can see that their behavior has nothing in line with your overall well-being, it's when you need to cut things off. Absolutely. Kristen says, using Define My Day has helped me to say no to wasting time because I now have awareness about how I'm spending my time. Yeah, man, absolutely. Now I'm living with a framework and living with intention. I love DMD. Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you. I love seeing stuff like that. I actually, we're coming up on a year anniversary when we launched this. We did it in March last year, and I don't think we had any idea the effect that this book was going to have on people, and I love seeing comments like that. So I thank you very much. I love that you're doing this. I appreciate the work that you have to put in to do this. So thank you, Kristen. I appreciate it. There was something that I don't have on my agenda to talk about today, but I found it very important in reading Mindset, the Carol Dweck book. I'm still slowly going through that book too, and she talked about the growth mindset, and she gets to the point in the book where she's giving examples about how you would handle things and what the fixed mindset would do and what the growth mindset would do. and they were talking. There was an example of a girl being accepted into, or only applying to one college and not being accepted. And the person that gets rejected says that, oh, I must not be good enough for this. I didn't write a good enough letter. I didn't do a good enough application. My credentials aren't good enough. I'm just a terrible person. And cognitive behavioral therapy teaches you that that's not true. You're okay, and eventually you get through that, and you feel a little bit better about yourself. But there's no growth there. In the growth mindset, there's something beyond just accepting a situation. And I think this is my problem, and I didn't realize it until I read this passage. This is my problem with cognitive therapy. This is my problem with most therapists, is that they train people to feel like you're okay, but don't necessarily take it to the next step where you actually make the change to be better. So in this example, the student can say, okay, I'm not good enough to get into this college, and I have to be okay with that. The next step in a growth mindset is to say, how can I get into that college? How can I change? What do I need to learn? What do I need to change to get to that college? So, and this is specific, this goes back to vision, right? My vision is to get into this college. Now, I can accept that I'm not worth going to this college. I can say that I'm okay with that, and I can be okay with that. You can do that. That's very fixed. And as far as cognitive therapy goes, I guess that's okay. But in a growth mindset, you say, what do I need to do to get into this college? What do I need to do? What changes, what actions do I need to take to get in? And in this case, in the student, this example, she called up the admissions office and said, hey, I understand I was rejected. What do I need to do to get in? What changes do I need to make? What do I need to learn? How can I change my application so that I can do better to get into this college? And what actually happened was that the college reviewed the application again and let her in. So she actually was good enough to get in the first place, but it took that extra little effort for them to review it again and get her in. Now, they could have come back with, well, you need stronger experience here. We need to see more, a more well-rounded experience. We need a better application essay. Whatever it might be, that you take that feedback and you change it to grow into that person that you want to be. This acceptance of, and this acceptance of, I am who I am, love me for who I am. It can get to be toxic, because it can get to be like this stagnant feeling where we're just kind of like, love me for who I am, and that's it. But there's a growth aspect that happens beyond that, where you can still be authentic to yourself, but you have to think of how, you have to get what you want by becoming who you want to be. So, you have to kind of connect the dots and take it to that extra level. And that's really what we're doing here, is saying that, like, this is my vision for myself. What are the actions today I need to take? The Spirit to Serve is that book by Bill Marriott. Without Reservation is his new book. That's, Cynthia, that's good. I'm gonna get those books. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sarah, priority with tasks, appreciate, enjoy. Thank you. You're welcome. Experience plus learning equals growth. Absolutely. Aaron, it's that idea that, we're, the experience that we have every day, and where we take that experience and where we go with it, we can't judge ourselves with it. It's very, going back to that question. Was it Jennifer? Sorry, I'm scrolling through my comments here to see. Okay, Jennifer said it. You're afraid to begin, and this goes to the growth mindset, Jennifer. So you have your book in front of you. You're not in a place right now where you're completely happy. You have identified at some point where you want to go. So take on that growth mindset and realize that it doesn't matter what you write today. It doesn't matter what you write tomorrow. What matters is figuring out the process. What matters is that, you have this vision of where you want to go, and that vision may even change, but, what happens today, the effort is more important than the result. the work and the self-awareness and the things that you're doing, the actions you're taking today are much more important than feeling at the end of the day like, oh, I did all my stuff. You want to feel like I made a strong effort towards that person that I want to become. That's the difference. So checking off, taking pride in checking off to-do list items and taking pride in doing all of your priorities is good. But the more important thing is the actual effort and work that you put into moving toward your ideal person, your ideal self. So I think that if I'm going to bring it all back around for Jennifer and for anybody else that's having a hard time, because I know there's more people out there, the effort is the important part about Define My Day. It's not that you did everything right, or it's not that you accomplished everything that you set out to accomplish. The goal is the effort and the awareness and the mindfulness of working through the process. Yeah, being teachable. I, for a long time, was not teachable. I thought I knew everything. I thought that I was smarter than people around me. And I think that, you can't be that way. Understanding that there's other perspectives and understanding that there's other people out there that can teach you something that you can probably learn from anybody. And when you take on that approach, when you can sit and have a conversation with somebody and say, what can I learn from this person? Your mindset switches immediately. If you look at somebody and you look down on them and you look at somebody and say, I know more than this person. When you're having a conversation and you're not open to thinking that there's anything you can gain from it, then what are you gonna what good can happen from that? The moment you say, what is this person saying that would possibly help me understand? How can I benefit from this conversation? It sounds a little bit selfish, but when you do that, you're opening yourself up to what that person has to say, and you're opening your mind up to learning new things that you might not have even conceived of. And I'll tell you, that mindset for me has changed a lot of things. It's changed how I deal with people around me, how I deal with people that have opposing political views. When you can sit and think to yourself, and maybe we need more of this in this country, is that whether you're on the left or the right, taking the time to understand where that person is coming from takes a lot of work. But when you do that, you kind of soften up a little bit and you're not so hard line. And I think if more people were to do that, we could make a lot more progress in this country politically. Good morning, Chuck. How are you, man? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Cynthia says, yesterday I had a long conversation with a friend from North Vietnam. When asking about their upcoming New Year on Tuesday, she shared that the day is not all that important to her. She believes every day is a new year. That's awesome. That's good. Every day is a new day to begin and become who we want to become. So that's a good perspective. I like that. And I think that if we look at that every day, if you can say, today I am going to become, I'm going to take steps towards who I most want to become. Regardless of whatever happened yesterday, you forgive and forget whatever mistakes you made yesterday, and you wake up today to become that person that you want to be. And, keep moving forward. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes it's 1 step forward, 3 steps back. You just keep plodding along. You keep moving forward because we really have no other choice. The only other choice is to, be unhappy with ourselves. Life is about the journey. It's not about the destination. We talked about the station in Tuesday's session. There's no one point in our lives where we're just going to be happy. We need to be happy with where we are now. And if we're not happy with where we are now, we need to make the changes that are going to help us become happy. And it might seem selfish early on, but in the end, people around us are going to be more happy because we are more happy and fulfilled ourselves. So, do we have anything else? I think I got through all the comments and questions, and I have said everything that I had to say. I hope it was valuable for you. And it's 10 o'clock, so we can start wrapping it up if there's nobody. I'm happy to stay if anybody else has any questions. But if not, I'm gonna hop off. I'm getting on my got to get on my ribs, put them in the smoker, and get things cleaned up around the house with my wife. So we'll get ready for that Super Bowl party tonight. Chuck says, better than yesterday, better tomorrow than today. 1% daily growth is all it takes. Absolutely. right? I mean, look, we don't need to make drastic changes today. We take that one little step, that 1%, and over the course of a year, you are so much further ahead. Love it. Love it. I saw a mad, somebody's mad. Somebody put a mad face, mad comment on this video right now. I don't know who did that. Sarah says, thank you for your insight. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Mary, thank you too. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for spending your Sunday morning with me. I know it's early. I know I promised you some bedhead, but today was a little bit crazy, so I had to put a hat on. But thank you for joining me on this. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate the work that you put in. I appreciate the comments and the support you guys put into the group. So keep it up, and we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy the game. We are not doing a Tuesday night this week, Cynthia. Sorry, this week we're not. We have so This Is Us is this week at my house, and we will not be doing Tuesday this week because there's going to be too much going on in the house, and I won't be able to focus. Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate it. Aaron, thank you. Enjoy your day too. Have a good day. Have a good Sunday. I hope everybody's thawing out okay today. So we'll see you next Sunday for another one of these. And if we do another one during the week, I will put it out via email and on the Facebook page. So everybody do well. Have a great day. Have a great game night tonight if you're watching the game. If not, I hope still wish you well. And I'll talk to you later. Define your day to define your life. And take care.